So this is a conversation I've had privately with many collectors throughout the years, but it's always private. Like, I never really see anyone publicly discuss this, which is why I wanted to make the video. And I also feel like I know why this crops up and why this thought happens for so many people and so many long-term collectors. Now, this mainly is long-term collectors, and I'm defining that by anyone who's been collecting 2 years or longer. Now, the average lifespan of a collector is usually anywhere between a few months to a year, maybe 2 years, but you know, I'll be really interested to know if you have been collecting for a few months or under 2 years. Has this cropped up for you, and sort of where did it come about? Why do you think that you had those kind of thoughts? Let me know down below in the comments. Now, I believe this is based around one thing, which is obviously selling everything you've accumulated over the years. And I believe there's sort of 3 reasons as to why you would want to do that. So one being just to completely cash out. Maybe you've lost interest. 2 years is a long time to constantly collect cards and new sets, or maybe old sets and things like that. So you might have just accumulated a lot and you want to cash out. Maybe some of the sets coming out have not really been that interesting for you, so your interest has dropped off. We also need to take into account that just your life in general, so financially and everything you're going through in your life changes a lot over 2 years and can change a lot. Sometimes that means you can put more money into card games. Sometimes it means you don't have any spare money to put into card games, especially in the economy at the moment. So all those things can obviously impact that. But yeah, one reason might be you just want to completely cash out and you don't want to collect anymore. Another one might be to sell up and just completely restart your collection. So you might have lost interest in what you were originally collecting, and you might just want to cash out of that and then just start collecting modern and newer sets that are coming out soon. And lastly, we've got consolidate your collection. So you might just want to sell everything you've accumulated over the years and just buy 1 or 2 really expensive things that you just never thought you'd own. Now, obviously, all of those options kind of come from the same place, in the sense that you've been collecting a long time. So let's say you've been collecting 4 years and you were spending £100 or $100 every month on collecting cards. Now, over those 4 years, not even taking into account things going up or down, we're just going to be super conservative and say it all stayed exactly the same value. You would have accumulated nearly £5,000. Now, if you're not just adding everything up as you're going, and you might look at your collection and just start adding it up, you might be really surprised by how much you've accumulated. And effectively, you've been indirectly saving money through assets. And you kind of haven't realized it until you've totaled it all up. Now, obviously, with that, you've probably accumulated a lot of cards, maybe sealed product. It might also be taking up a lot of space. So that can be another reason why you might have the idea of like just selling everything and buying a few really expensive cards. But you might also think about that just purely because you don't realize how much money and value you have in these collectibles. And then you're like, wow, all of a sudden I could afford 1 or 2 cards that I may have never dreamt of owning if I just sell everything and buy that card on its own. And obviously, the longer you've been collecting, the more value you're going to have in your collection. And a lot of people don't see it as like savings or anything like that. They just see it as, I want this card, I want to collect it, I'll buy it. And that's how they end up accumulating so many cards, so much value, kind of without even realizing most of the time. And this can also come about purely because you might lose interest in collecting in general, right? There is a lot of negativity, drama in the card world, online, on social media. There's always so much going on, especially Pokemon. There's so much drama and negativity always going on. You can always find it, and sometimes that can feel really deflating. It can take out some of the enjoyment for you. Obviously, it's easy to say, oh, just don't watch the content, don't watch the videos. But, you know, if you're on Instagram as well, you might see it over everyone's stories, and there's always something going on, and that can just take away some of that enjoyment. And along with that, there might be some sets coming out that you're not interested in, and that can quickly just lead you to just not collecting anymore, and you just stop collecting because you don't feel like there's anything you really, really want. And your interests over a long period of time will change. Like, it'd be very rare, I think, to say like if you've collected 5 years, you've always collected like this certain set or this certain thing, and you haven't actually tried all of the different things. Like, there's so many sets and so many card games out there. There's just so much choice and so many things you can enjoy. You might have accumulated, like, for example, you know, similar to me, like I've got a vintage Pokemon collection that I accumulated like 4 to 5 years ago that I still have to this day. Like, I potentially could just sell all of that. Like, it definitely doesn't bring me as much enjoyment and joy as it did when it first turned up. And I feel like that's the same for most cards or most collections. Like, the best part is when you first get that item and you're just in awe of like how old it is and the condition and things like that. Once you've owned it for many years and you know it's there, or you've looked at it so many times, like naturally it's not going to give you the same amount of enjoyment, and your collecting goals will probably change. They probably change every year. I feel like most people's collection goals are different year on year, even if it's in the same card game. Like it still changes, and your interest will still move around. And then it's like, do you sell that part of your collection that you may have lost interest in and then start buying all the things that you are now interested in? But it is a weird one, because I still have my vintage Pokemon collection and I know it's there. I don't look at it often, but if I was to sell it, I then know it's gone. But realistically, nothing's really that different. Like I don't get it out all the time to look at it. I've had it for many years now. I've seen it so many times. But if it's not there, it's just knowing that you then don't have it, which kind of makes you want it again, even though there's kind of no difference. Even if, there's been times where I've had it on display, and I feel like sometimes if you have it on display, because you see it all the time, sometimes you lose some of that appreciation for that item. Now, I'm sure if you sold that and knew you didn't have it, maybe you might want it back. That's happened to me in the past. I've sold things and then kind of regretted selling it, and that's usually what puts me off selling things that I have, is that I don't want to sell it and then it go up more in price and then it becomes unattainable and I can sort of never get it back. But I think that's just the way it is. Like things go up, things go down. You could sell it, it could go down in price, and even if it goes down in price, you're probably not going to buy it back anyway, because it's a lower price and you can feel like you can pick it up anytime. But this is a thought I've been having a lot lately, especially with Pokemon going up in value. I know most of that is the modern Pokemon boom. Part of me thinks about the vintage collection that I have, or even Wise Schwar's collection that I have. Could I just keep, maybe a couple of items from that, which I do really love, and I know I would genuinely miss if I didn't have them, and then potentially sell the rest and then collect different things that I'm interested in, maybe more modern things. Once you've had it for so long, for so many years, the only difference is sort of just knowing that you own it. But realistically, if you're not seeing it all the time and you haven't seen it for 6 months, what's the difference of it being there or not being there, and you having the money value to then spend on things that you are interested in or cards that you do want to buy? But that has been cropping up a lot for me lately. I feel like there are some days where maybe you just have an off day, maybe you're just not feeling too great and you're struggling to find enjoyment in anything. You might have that thought come in of just, should I just sell everything? Do I really care about any of this? And most of the time I'm glad I kind of don't act on that thought, because it usually only lasts a day or so, and then you get back to enjoying it, and at the end of the day it was just sort of like a low mood mixed with that thought. But lately I've been having that thought quite often. Even though I've been enjoying cards and collecting still, I've still had that thought about selling maybe the vintage collection, because I'm not collecting vintage anymore. So does it make sense to keep hold of it when my interests aren't in vintage? Like at the end of the day, I collected that 4 to 5 years ago when I was really interested in vintage. I picked up most of the things I wanted to. Obviously you could always have more, you could always want more, but the main cards that I wanted, like, I managed to pick up. Yeah, obviously sometimes they could always be a better grade or a first edition rather than an unlimited or something like that, but the prices increased so much from back then when I was picking them up that I'm sort of priced out of upgrading those cards or doing anything like that, and the interest sort of has died off for that collection, because I got what I could when I could, and it hasn't really changed over the years. That collection I haven't bought more vintage. The last time I bought vintage was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and it was kind of really cheap cards anyway. But right now, if I had £500 to spend, I probably wouldn't be buying a vintage Pokemon card, because it'd just probably be a card that I already own, so it just doesn't make sense. Like, the ones I wanted the most, I picked up at the time when I could. And at the moment, modern is really exciting. Things are going crazy, and lately I've been enjoying just opening product and trying to pull things and collecting cheaper cards and filling up a binder and things like that. So normal for your interest to change over time, and I think that's another thing, is that if your interests change over time, then your collection sort of changes, and the things that you once loved, maybe you don't love as much anymore, and that is what also can lead to thoughts of selling them, because it's like, these aren't bringing the same enjoyment as they used to. I could sell them and then buy something that I am interested in, or that I do feel like I really want to get. But yeah, let me know down below in the comments what you guys think. I'll be really interested to hear your opinions. If you've had this thought, where it sort of came about for you. Was it lack of interest? Maybe you were changing card games and you thought, well, if I'm changing card games, I may as well sell this so I can go all in on this new thing that I'm really interested in and want to pick up. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, please hit like and subscribe if you're not already. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.